Most preppers have never set foot in a Tractor Supply. That's a mistake veterans don't make. Every item on a military field supply list has a twin sitting in a farm store aisle, priced for ranchers, not marked up for survivalists. This comes from the field expedient mindset trained into every combat MOS. FM 2176 and FM 534 teach the same principle. Assess what's available, adapt it to what's needed. Stop waiting for purpose-built gear that may never arrive. One item on this list costs under $15 for a 50-pound bag. Military sanitation doctrine says it's more critical than food in the first 30 days of grid collapse. Most preppers have never heard of it. 8 items, 1 store run, water storage, medical capability, sanitation, cooking, insulation, perimeter security, and food preservation. Covered. The prepared already know where to look. After this, so will you. Item 1. Livestock water trough. Walk past the front registers and head to the farm and ranch section. You're looking for polyethylene stock tanks. 50 gallons, 100 gallons, 150 gallons. Prices run from around $50 to $130 depending on size. These aren't decorative. They're designed for year-round outdoor exposure. UV resistant, impact resistant, food-grade polyethylene rated for constant water contact. That matters. A 100-gallon stock tank sustains a family of 4 for 12 days. That's based on the military planning rate of 2 gallons per person per day. Not a guess, not an estimate. Doctrine. Now here's what most people do instead. They go online. They search emergency water storage. They find a 60-gallon barrel with a survival logo stamped on it. It costs $140. It holds 40 gallons less than the stock tank. It sits in a closet doing nothing until a crisis arrives. The stock tank sits in your yard right now being useful. You're growing tomatoes in it. You're collecting rainwater. You're using it as a wash basin. It serves you every single day. Then, when the grid drops, you already own the largest portable water vessel most families will ever need. During the Texas winter storm of 2021, municipal water systems collapsed across the state. Rural families who already had stock tanks transitioned to household water storage within hours. No emergency purchase, no panic buying. No standing in line at a big box store hoping they still had something left. The stock tank was already there, already full, already working. One item. 12 days of water security. Under $130. That's your first purchase. Running total. $130. I've written up everything you need to know about building out your water and supply capability in a guide you can print and keep offline. First link in the description. Item 2. Veterinary wound care section. Don't walk past the animal health aisle. Stop there. You're looking at chlorhexidine solution. Betadine, cohesive bandage wrap, sold as Vetrap. Wound irrigation syringes, triple antibiotic ointment. Here's what most people don't understand. These products are chemically identical to what you'd buy at a pharmacy. Chlorhexidine at 2% concentration is the same antiseptic used in military field hospitals. Same compound, same concentration, same function. The difference is the label. One says veterinary use. The other says medical grade. The price gap between those two labels is enormous. A roll of cohesive wrap in the vet aisle runs you a couple dollars. The identical product repackaged in a pharmacy blister pack costs 4 to 5 times that. Same material, same adhesion, same stretch rating. You're paying for packaging and a retail channel, not a better product. Now think about what you're actually building here. Chlorhexidine handles wound irrigation and antiseptic cleansing. Betadine covers broad-spectrum disinfection. Cohesive wrap handles compression bandaging without adhesive contacting skin. Irrigation syringes let you flush debris from lacerations with controlled pressure. Triple antibiotic prevents infection in minor wounds. That's a trauma and wound care kit with more coverage than most pharmacy first aid sections offer. and you're assembling it for a fraction of the cost. Most preppers buy expensive individual first aid items one at a time from tactical retailers. A single Israeli bandage from a survival store costs more than an entire shelf of veterinary wound care supplies that do the same job. You don't need the brand, you need the compound. The specification is what saves you, not the logo. This section of the store runs you about $30 to $40 for a complete wound care loadout. Running total, $170. Item 3. 5-gallon buckets with Gamma Seal lids. Head to the feed and storage section. You're looking for food-grade 5-gallon buckets and Gamma Seal lids sold separately or as a set. This is the backbone of long-term dry food storage, seed banking, small item organization, tool caching. The bucket itself is standard. You can find 5-gallon buckets anywhere. What makes this system work is the Gamma Seal lid. It converts a standard pry-off lid into a screw-top resealable opening. That single change transforms how you interact with stored supplies. Without the Gamma Seal, you open a bucket once. You pry the lid off, you damage the seal, you lose the airtight environment. With the Gamma Seal, you open and close that bucket daily if you need to. Rotation becomes practical. You cycle through rice. You pull flour as you need it. You access seed stock by season. This is the identical system used at military field supply points for company-level sustainment. Standardized containers, resealable, stackable, labeled and rotated by date. That system exists because it works under pressure. It works when you're feeding dozens of people from cached supplies in a forward position. It works for your family in a basement. Now here's the contrast that matters. Purpose-built food storage systems marketed to preppers run $150 to $200 for a set that stores the same volume as 5 Gamma-sealed buckets. The bucket and lid system costs you $40 to $50 for the same capacity, same food-grade material, same airtight seal, same stackability, 3 to 4 times less cost. You buy 10 buckets, 10 Gamma lids. You now have a 50-gallon dry storage system for under $100. That covers rice, beans, flour, oats, sugar, salt, pasta, and powdered milk with room to spare. Running total, $270. Item 4. Agricultural lime. Calcium hydroxide. This is the item from the hook, the one most preppers have never considered. Walk to the stable and equine section. You'll find 50-pound bags of agricultural lime for under $15. FM 2110. That's the military field manual for field hygiene and sanitation. It specifies calcium hydroxide as a primary agent for field sanitation operations. Latrine management, pathogen neutralization, odor control, carcass disposal. Now here's why this matters more than almost anything else on the list. In any extended grid-down scenario, the first infrastructure failure that kills people isn't the power grid, it's the sewage system. Municipal sewage requires pumping stations. Pumping stations require electricity. When the grid fails, sewage backs up. Within days, you have standing waste in residential areas. Waterborne pathogens begin spreading. Cholera, dysentery, E. coli contamination of any surface water source within proximity. Military doctrine is explicit about this. Sanitation failure kills faster than food scarcity. You can survive weeks without adequate calories. You cannot survive a waterborne disease outbreak without medical infrastructure that no longer exists. Agricultural lime handles this. You dig a field latrine, you cover each use with a layer of lime. The calcium hydroxide raises pH levels high enough to neutralize pathogens on contact. It suppresses odor. It accelerates decomposition. It creates a chemical barrier between human waste and the surrounding soil and water table. One 50-pound bag manages a family latrine for weeks. 2 bags and you have months of sanitation capability. For under $30. Most preppers stockpile ammunition. They stockpile freeze-dried meals. They stockpile water filters. Almost none of them stockpile the one substance that prevents the single most likely cause of death in a prolonged grid-down event. That's not a gear failure, that's a knowledge failure. And it costs $15 to fix. Running total, $285. Item 5. Cast iron cookware. You already know what cast iron is. You might already own a skillet, but most people don't think about cast iron as survival infrastructure. They think of it as a kitchen preference. Here's the operational reality. Cast iron functions identically on open flame, wood stove, propane burner, charcoal, or campfire. It doesn't warp. It doesn't melt. It doesn't degrade. A 12-inch Dutch oven replaces your baking dish, your stock pot, your frying pan, your roasting pan, and your bread oven. One vessel. 5 functions. Military field kitchens have relied on cast iron for generations, not because it's traditional, because nothing else survives the conditions. Now here's the contrast. Titanium camping cookware runs $80 to $120 for a single pot. Lightweight? Sure. Durable for backpacking? Fine, but it warps over direct flame at high heat. It distributes heat unevenly. It can't handle baking. It can't handle the thermal mass needed for stews and slow cooking. A Lodge 12-inch Dutch oven costs you around $40 at a farm store. It outperforms the titanium set across every cooking method except weight savings. And in a stationary survival scenario, weight doesn't matter. Performance matters, heat retention matters, versatility matters. You buy one skillet and one Dutch oven. You've covered every cooking method your family needs for about $60 to $70. Running total, $355. Item 6. Straw bales. Under $10 per bale. Sometimes as low as $5 or $6 depending on season and region. Most people walk right past the straw display outside the store. They don't see insulation. They don't see construction material. They don't see flood control. They see animal bedding. Here's what the specification says. Straw has an R value of approximately 1.5 per inch of compressed depth. A standard straw bale is around 14 inches deep. That gives you an R value near 21 per bale. For context, a standard 2x6 wall with fiberglass insulation delivers an R value of 19. A single straw bale outperforms it. The U.S. Army used straw bale construction for temporary shelters during the Korean War. Troops stacked bales for walls, covered them with tarps, and created insulated positions that held heat in sub-zero conditions. FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers have documented straw bale use in emergency flood control as improvised levee reinforcement. The bales absorb water and expand, creating a denser barrier than sandbags alone. Now think about your applications. You lose heat in your home during a winter grid failure. You stack straw bales against exterior walls. You line a single interior room to create a thermal refuge. You insulate a garage or outbuilding to create a livable space. You build a temporary windbreak around a cooking or sleeping area. You reinforce low ground around your property during flood conditions. 6 functions. Under $10 per bale. You buy 10 bales. That's under $100 for enough insulation to convert a single room into a survivable shelter in sub-freezing temperatures, or enough material to build an improvised flood barrier across a vulnerable section of your property. Most preppers spend hundreds on emergency shelter systems, mylar blankets, emergency bivvies, insulated tent liners. None of them match the R value per dollar that a straw bale delivers. Running total, $455. Now pay attention to this one. This is the item that separates people who understand material science from people who just buy whatever has a survival label on it. Item 7. Blue DEF containers. You've seen them. Every gas station, every auto parts store, every tractor supply. Blue plastic jugs of diesel exhaust fluid. 2.5-gallon containers. A couple dollars each. Most people throw them away. That's a mistake. Here's why. DEF is a urea and water solution. It contains no petroleum products, no hydrocarbons, no chemical residue that contaminates the plastic. The container itself is HDPE, high-density polyethylene, the same material used in food-grade water jugs. But here's the critical distinction. Not all HDPE is equal. What matters is what the container previously held. An HDPE jug that held petroleum-based products absorbs hydrocarbons into the molecular structure of the plastic. You can't wash that out. The contamination is in the material itself. DEF containers don't have that problem. The solution they held is aqueous, non-toxic, no hydrocarbon absorption. After cleaning with soap, water, and a sanitizing rinse, you have a food-grade equivalent water storage vessel rated for UV exposure and temperature extremes. Military logistics personnel are trained to evaluate container suitability for field expedient water storage. The assessment protocol checks material type, previous contents, and structural integrity. TEEP that held a non-toxic aqueous solution passes that assessment after proper decontamination, every single time. Now do the math. You collect 20 DEF containers from gas stations, auto shops, or your own vehicle maintenance. That's 50 gallons of water storage. Portable, stackable, UV resistant. Total cost is essentially free if you're collecting empties. Even if you buy them new 20 jugs at a couple dollars, each runs you about $40 to $50 for 50 gallons of purpose-built water storage. A comparable set of purpose-marketed survival water containers costs 3 to 4 times that. Same material, same capacity, different label, different price. These jugs fit in vehicle trunks. They fit under beds. They fit on shelving units. They freeze without cracking. They're the most versatile water storage option available, and most people are putting them in the recycling bin. Running total, about $475 if you buy a handful and collect the rest. Item 8. Portable electric fence charger and polywire. Last item. Head to the fencing section. You're looking for a solar-powered or battery-operated fence charger, a spool of polywire, and a bag of step and posts. The whole setup runs you about $100 to $150. Here's what this gives you. A deployable perimeter alert and deterrent system. One person sets it up in under an hour. The charger sends a pulsed electric current through the polywire. Non-lethal. But the shock is enough to deter animals and deliver an unmistakable alert if anything contacts the line. You run the wire around your property perimeter. You run it around a garden. You run it around a supply cache. You create zones. Inner perimeter. Outer perimeter. Single entry corridor. Military forward operating bases in low-intensity environments used analogous improvised perimeter solutions. Concertina wire and trip flares served the same function: alert and deter. The electric fence achieves both without permanent installation. You relocate the entire system in 30 minutes. You expand or contract the perimeter based on threat assessment. You run multiple independent lines from a single charger. Now contrast this against what the survival market sells you. Trail cameras cost $50 to $100 each. They require batteries or power infrastructure. They require fixed mounting. They require you to check footage. They detect but don't deter. Dedicated perimeter alarm systems cost hundreds. They require installation. They require power. They require monitoring. The electric fence charger runs on a solar panel or a single battery. It deters on contact. It alerts by response. It requires zero monitoring between setup and contact. Total cost: $100 to $150 for a relocatable perimeter security system that covers every function the expensive alternatives split across multiple products. Running total: around $600. $600. One store. 8 items. You've covered water storage for 12 days at military planning rates. Medical capability that matches field hospital antiseptic standards. Sanitation management that prevents the #1 killer in grid-down scenarios. Cooking infrastructure that handles every method on any fuel source. Insulation that outperforms purpose-built emergency shelter products. Water storage vessels most people throw in the trash. And a perimeter security system you deploy in under an hour. The equivalent capability purchased from survival retail runs you $2,000 to $3,000. Easily. You just did it for $600. That's the difference between buying a label and buying a specification. One approach makes you feel prepared. The other actually prepares you. Everything you need to apply this kind of thinking across your full setup, I've put together in the guide linked below. Now here's what I want to know. Which of these 8 items are you picking up first, and which one did you already have without knowing what it was really for? Drop it in the comments.